Welcome back to another episode of the Association Spotlight Series. I'm Lake Morehouse, joined today by Cory Lilly of Recovery Point. Cory, thanks so much for giving us some of your time today and making the drive up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. If you just kind of want to let our folks know what your title is, what you do at Recovery Point, kind of how long you've been there.
Okay. Yeah, I've been there for about 5 years. I've worked on the behavioral health side, and my title is Director of Revenue Cycle Management. So I just kind of oversee, the billing and making sure that everything is operating as efficiently as possible.
Right.
So many hats.
Yeah,
many
of course.
hats.
So, what's your your day to day look like? It sounds like it may be changing pretty often? Depending on the day.
It just depends. It
Sure.
depends on, what's going on. Every day is a different problem, or, not really problem, but,
Sure.
Different issue that you have to deal with, especially with my job. I don't really have a lot of contact with the clients per se. I have a lot of contact with the payers.
Right. You're on the back end a little bit more. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a lot of back and forth and chasing people down. And you have to be persistent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You have to be persistent in order to get an answer or, find a solution.
Yeah, it seems positions like yours are almost, it's kind of the engine that keeps it all running that maybe folks don't see, more behind the scenes.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Very true. When I first started as a billing specialist, I didn't know, hardly anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked around, and nobody knew anything about billing. Not even, they were like, you need to talk to so-and-so. So I would call them and they said, well, you need to talk to so-and-so. So actually nobody really knows about the billing. So I kind of just started, developing my own process and throwing things at the wall to see what stuck. And eventually I knew what they expected and what worked, what didn't. And then I honed the, workflow for it. And now it's very streamlined.
That's great. You kind of made it your own, and here we are.
Yes.
That's awesome. If you want to just kind of talk a little bit about your journey, how you got to Recovery Point, and kind of, you have a unique one. It's quite inspiring.
Absolutely. So, in 2019, 3 days after Christmas, I was stabbed 5 times in a home invasion robbery. I was stabbed twice in each leg and once on the side right here. So it collapsed my lung and missed my heart by just a few millimeters.
Gosh.
Just a few millimeters. And I wasn't found for 14 hours. So I laid there bleeding out, and I remember fading in and out of consciousness thinking, is this it?
Yeah.
I was just staring at the ceiling. I'll never forget it. But
wow.
I was found. I was rushed to the hospital here at General,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on the trauma unit for, I think, 7 days. And a recovery coach actually came to talk to me. And I was very stubborn back then.
Sure.
Most people are when they're in active addiction.
Yep.
Somehow she got me to see things in a different light. And she persuaded me, and I made the decision myself, though, as well, to get help. And there was a bed open at Recovery Point. And so as soon as I was discharged from the hospital, that's where I went.
Wow. And then, so here we are years later now.
Here we are.
It's come full circle, really, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So after your recovery and, getting clean and everything, is that when you, like you talked about, you started at Recovery Point and more of an entry-level position, and then finished up some schooling, or how did that timeline kind of go?
So, throughout the program, I always remember thinking to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what am I going to do when I leave here?
Yeah.
When I'm done. And I finally told myself, you know what? If you're going to do this, you're going to do it.
Right.
You're just not going to just go through the motions like, A lot of people do,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Yep.
You know, you have to do it for yourself, not for anybody else.
Right.
So I told myself, if you are going to do this, you're going to be serious about getting sober, staying sober, but you are going to pick up where your life left off when you started using.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
I enrolled at Concord University, and I only had to take like 3 or 4 classes to finish with my Bachelor of Arts degree. But I just did a Regents Bachelor of Arts.
Sure.
I just did that in order for me to be able to get to, be able to apply for grad school.
Right.
So once I graduated there, I applied to a school for master's degree in healthcare administration,
Okay.
because obviously that's what I'm doing for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it. I loved it. I still love it, and I enjoy it, though. That's the thing.
That's the key. Yep.
I like figuring stuff out and having to think outside the box, and things that challenge me.
Right.
That's what I like. It stimulates my mind. And so I did that. I got accepted. I finished it in, I think, 10 months. But it was all stuff that I kind of already knew or was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know, specific things. And I just remember it was a lot of typing.
Sure.
A lot of typing.
Yep.
I have a box full of papers, and I always type my paper single spaced for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yep.
But I did. And so I have like a box, like a ream of paper comes in.
Yep.
And it's full. It's just full of all the papers for my healthcare administration degree.
Wow. Yeah. So a lot. Yep.
Yes. And then once I graduated from there, I decided, you know what? I still have a little bit of, juice left in me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get an MBA.
Yeah.
Just so I'm not confined to healthcare. Should I ever get burnout,
yep.
or, it'll help me in my health, healthcare administration job. So I applied and got accepted to an MBA program with a specialization in IT management.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did that program, and all this is while I'm working full time at Recovery Point, while
Right.
we're opening our first IOP in Huntington.
So you were busy, to say the least.
Yes, I never had any free time.
Oh my gosh.
It was either work, and I would come home and I would do school until about 9 p.m. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like that for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's hard work. That's dedication, like you're talking about. You stuck with it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And then here you are, and 2 master's degrees later, and you're still going.
Yeah, it's surreal to think about, and I get used to just going through the motions every day, just going to work, just like a normal individual.
Sure.
But when I do stop and reflect, it really hits me.
Yeah.
That, wow. I have come from just 6 years ago. I was, broken, had nothing, just nothing in my life.
Right.
No good relationships, no healthy relationships. I didn't have a relationship with my family.
Mm-hmm.
I was 100% alone.
Yeah.
And you think the people you're hanging around with at the time are your friends. They are not your friends. So, just knowing that I came from that to sitting here right now is absolutely just out of this world to me.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
And so it just goes to show me that anything is possible if you set your mind to it.
Absolutely. That's an inspiring, journey for anyone to hear. And I hope it does kind of resonate with folks like that. That's great. And we can kind of parlay that into all your success and all the great momentum you've had. You're coming up to be our next SUD committee chair for the coming year here at the association. So we're excited that you accepted the role, and just another kind of, as if you weren't busy enough, just give you one more thing to do, right?
Well, when Brad reached out to me, I read the email and I had to read it like 5 times again, and and I was just like, "Is this a typo? Did he mean to send this to me?" And I knew right then and there, like, absolutely, I'm gonna do it.
Oh yeah,
Because things that make you, if you're comfortable, you're not growing,
sure,
right?
exactly. Yep,
And so I've tried to always push myself to do things that I'm not comfortable doing,
yep,
so that I can grow.
exactly.
And and I'll be vulnerable here. Like, public speaking is, something that has held me back in my career
Hmm.
because I've always shied away from it.
Sure. Yep.
Whereas here lately, or in the past 6 to 8 months, I'd say, I've really pushed myself to speak, in front of more people,
Of course.
larger groups of people, and it doesn't bother me now.
Good. Yeah.
And so, granted, the first meeting, might be a little bit intimidating to me, just for the
Sure.
simple fact that it's a big deal.
Yeah, of course.
It's a very,
big
and
group.
I'm very honored to have been, chosen
Sure.
to be the committee chair. And so I hope that I can live up to everyone's expectations.
Oh,
and
I'm sure you will.
Brad and I had spoken about, what all, I thought that needed, or what I would want to do with it.
Sure.
And, we, went back and forth and everything, and he liked the ideas that I had. So I think that, all of us are aligned, so to speak,
Yep.
in what we're wanting to do and accomplish.
Right.
And I just, it's all about the people that we're trying to help.
Yep.
The people who are still sick and suffering.
That's number
and
one.
Struggling. Yeah. And, I want people to have the same chance that I did.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some aren't getting those chances.
Yeah.
And it really is heartbreaking because, if they're not eligible for Medicaid for some reason,
Sure.
They can't get help.
Yep.
And there's many people like that.
Yeah,
I've
of course.
spoken to many people who are not eligible for Medicaid and they should qualify.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I want to make sure that we are able to reach everyone in need and, create a process or, a procedure, protocols, something
Yep.
that addresses the issue that everyone deserves a chance, a second chance, a third chance, fourth chance. I don't care how many chances.
Right. Yep.
Keeping people alive is important.
Exactly.
Right? You only live once.
Yep.
So if we have the means to help people, why not do it?
Exactly. And that's the great part about this association and, our committees, just like SUD, everyone's pulling the rope in the same direction. I know we say that a lot, but it's really true. And this is the biggest and I think the strongest our association's ever been. It certainly is in terms of members. So it's really great to see that momentum. And speaking of momentum, you're talking about keeping people alive. There's been some great, finally, it's still a tall mountain to climb, of course, it always is. But there's been some great reports that have come out where overdose deaths are curbing and they are decreasing for the first time in a long time. And we're starting to see that, which is like, thankfully, finally, some good news, and all the hard work that you all have done and everybody have done. It's got to feel like a little bit of a win. Of course, we're not there yet.
But that's huge.
That's huge.
Though.
That's great.
It takes a while for numbers like that to really start showing.
Right.
Because
absolutely.
That's a big thing.
Oh man.
I mean, it's a very big thing.
Yep.
And that, what was it, 34%?
I think so. I'd have to look.
34 or 24.
Yeah,
something like that. That's
it's big.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I think a lot of people just see that number and they don't know what all has gone into that number over these years. I mean, just absolutely, tireless and selfless work that you all and all of our members and everyone across the state have put into that. It's not just a number. It's blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, truly.
Right.
So.
And, one thing I think that I bring something to this role, that maybe others haven't, is that I have lived experience in addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I am in long-term recovery. I'll be sober 6 years in December.
Wow. Congratulations.
but I've also educated myself professionally,
Mhm.
and I am a colleague of everyone
Sure.
now. So I bring kind of the, both worlds so I can
Yep.
advocate for people, in addiction, and I can also relate and understand on, the administrative level and the
Right.
legislative level
Yep.
of what's going on and kind of mediate the two.
Yep.
And I hope to be able to, bring that link and really do some good work.
Yeah, that's an invaluable two perspectives there. It's very unique, and that's great that you have that. And yeah, that's incredible. So just another note I had here too. We know that we have some news for Recovery Point kind of on the horizon here. You all have a big event tomorrow, which is Friday. And so by the time this airs, this will already have passed. But if you want to
Yes.
talk about your all's new ribbon cutting tomorrow in Charleston.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are opening a new outpatient facility for Charleston.
Yeah.
We'll do an IOP out of there as well.
Okay.
It's open to the community. It'll serve our Recovery Point Charleston clients, females. However, we won't turn anybody away,
Okay.
regardless of their insurance or Medicaid doesn't reimburse for behavioral health services very, very much. So
Right.
we haven't really made it a point to become credentialed with them or anything. But if someone comes knocking at the door and they don't have insurance, we'll still see them.
Sure.
And
Okay.
we will eat those costs. We don't
Wow.
turn anyone away.
Right.
Because how would you feel? How would anybody feel?
Yeah.
And a lot of places wouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is open to the community. So if anybody is suffering in the community that wants to do outpatient, or it's not a residential
Sure.
or inpatient facility, but if they can do outpatient, we will for sure accommodate them and get them in there and get them the help that they need.
That's great and super exciting.
Yeah.
It really is.
It'll be it's at the Schoenbaum Family Enrichment Center. It's inside there. It's Suite 194.
Okay.
It's really a great place.
Great location too. For other folks, it's right off the Patrick Street Bridge, and South Charleston, west side of Charleston, kind of mixed there. So
we're really proud of it.
Yeah.
We're very, very proud of it. And it's a good environment there, a good culture.
Great.
And so I think only good things can come from it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
continue to grow.
I think, once we get that up and running, our goal is to move on to our next facility, or one of our other facilities, probably Bluefield.
Okay. Southern part of the state.
Yeah. Because there are IOPs there. But we kind of want to, do our own IOP, and still be open to community clients.
Sure.
So that these other organizations can send us referrals should they not be able to accommodate someone, or, they're inpatient, so they can't, but this person wants to do outpatient. Well, here we are, we can do outpatient.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that we can serve as many community clients as possible, help the community, better the community, and then help our clients as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
that's exciting. It's great stuff on the horizon there for Recovery Point, and you all continue to do great work, and we're so happy to have you all as members. Truly.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
We so kind of the last question here I always like to ask everyone is, what would you maybe, with your journey being so inspiring and unique, and everyone's is unique in a way, so of course, but maybe someone interested in the behavioral health industry, trying to get into it, curious, but they might not know, how to, or what would you maybe tell that person kind of working in this space has done for you, and that everything isn't 1, 2, 3, you have to get into it this way and start entry level and come up to a manager like you have, or it's different paths?
It would depend on what you want to do.
Sure.
Do you want to be, a clinical director?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to work on the business administrative side, like I do?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to, be a behavioral health technician? Or there's just so many different positions, a case manager, a counselor, a therapist. There's so many different things. So it's if you're already thinking about being in the behavioral health field,
Mhm.
there's something inside of you or something that you've experienced in your life that's, has you thinking.
Directing you that way.
Exactly.
Right.
So whatever that is, I would encourage people to look further or deeper into that as to why they're thinking of going into the field.
Right.
The field is, it's difficult, and I don't think, one person would disagree with me.
Oh, no.
It is very difficult, especially just trying to keep daily operations, operating.
Yeah. Yep.
With, the fee schedules for Medicaid and the rates and everything, keeping the lights on and paying the providers is difficult enough.
Sure.
So really, you really got to ask yourself, are you doing it for the money?
Mhm.
Are you doing it because you're truly passionate about it? Are you doing it because you truly want to help people?
Mhm.
Or are you doing it because of another reason?
Right.
So
Yep.
I think that should be addressed first,
Right.
and identify why you're thinking about going into the field
Yep.
before you actually make that jump, because it is a lot of hard work.
Of course. Yeah.
And there's, especially in the beginning, especially entry level, there's not a lot of money to be made.
Sure. You really have the passion for it.
It just, you have to do it. So if you do it for the money, you're going to get burned out.
Sure. Like with a lot of jobs.
Yes.
Yep.
If you're passionate about it, money, yes, getting raises and stuff like that and making good money, is a perk.
Yep.
But ultimately, to me, even though I don't work directly with clients,
Right.
I work on the back end,
Mhm.
kind of just make sure everything is operating, everything's compliant,
Mhm.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I don't work directly with the clients, I still make it possible, or our administrative team, we still make it possible for our direct care providers to provide those services
Right.
to clients.
Which
So
is
in
just
a
as important.
way,
Yeah.
I guess by proxy or
Yeah.
vicariously, I still do, help the clients.
Sure. Well, one doesn't work without the other. So it's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And we don't, we wouldn't have a job without the clients.
Exactly. It's a team.
It's everybody matters.
Yep.
And I just, I think that somebody should really look at, what they are,
Before
what's
they hop in.
causing them or thinking that, or making them think like what they want to get into.
Sure. Yeah. So answering those questions with themselves in the beginning is paramount. And figuring out that, and then before you, right.
Yeah, you have to have the passion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to want to help people.
And
if you're just doing it just to do it, you're actually harming people more so than helping them.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is help people. And I know all the other behavioral health organizations, I don't want to speak for them, but I know that they, will say the same thing.
Yep.
We're here to help people, not harm them.
Right. Right.
And there are some, some people that get into it and realize this isn't for me, but they continue to work.
Right.
And they don't realize it, and they don't mean to do it.
Of course, yeah.
But ultimately, they are harming people more so than helping them.
Yeah.
So
you got to be honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then the rewards, they come.
Yes.
If you're in there for, which is the best part. You're helping people and you're saving lives, and that's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
So.
Saving lives is the most important thing. That's why we're doing this.
Exactly.
And, even if we save one person's life, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because, it's just being able to save as many lives as possible and, get people's lives back on track. People get their kids back, custody of their kids. They get housed, and their lives completely change.
Oh.
And, you look at them 5 years down the road, and here they have an excellent job. Their kids are doing great. They're thriving.
Yep.
And there's no better feeling than to be able to see that. And, like recovery works if you let it. And without resources, recovery doesn't work.
Right.
we need the resources to continue to help people, because recovery, it doesn't depend on the resources, but it is a major driving factor.
Absolutely.
So, I just want to make sure that we keep those resources as much as we can.
Yep.
Okay, because I know lately a lot have been cut and
Sure.
this, that, and the other, but there are still organizations, that are there to help. So as long as we can continue to advocate for those who are still sick and suffering, I'll still be, working in this field as long as I can. So.
Well, that's great. That's perfectly put. Cory, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for everything you all do, and every day it's inspiring, and we could not do it without all of our members and folks around the state. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
it. And thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks.